Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Pastor Hadipiju from Living Wholeness Outreaches Incorporation here in Albany, New York. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on our Path to Wholeness Living, we are going to be looking into stress, the effect of stress on our body, and how to prevent, eliminate, or reduce stress. So, what is stress? Stress is a major thing nowadays. It has always been a major thing, but with the impact of the COVID and the loss of job, loss of loved ones, loss of different things going on around us, the impact of stress has been so huge. You know, impact of stress leads to anxiety, leads to depression, cardiac diseases, neurological diseases, all forms of illnesses and diseases stems from stress. And I believe it's one area that we should all be very familiar with, and to be very, very familiar with how to reduce or eliminate or just reduce stress, remove stress. Stress is our body's responding to any kind of demand or threat. You know, Stress again is the body's response to demand and something that threatens you. Body's response to demands and threats. Stress comes from within us. The state of our internal being. It comes from within us and also from outside. So stress can come from within or without, also from outside or from inside. The major thing from my research, the books that I've written, The Mind of Christ, to combat chronic diseases and also to reduce weight and maintain weight. There's chapters in it talking about stress, because stress has been linked to excessive weight also. All forms of, I dare say 74 to 98% of illnesses and diseases are linked to the impact of stress, not knowing how to manage stress. We live here, so we have to do what we have to do. We have to live, and no matter, as a human being, we are bound to face something challenging. We are bound to face some threats, some excessive demand on us. So we have to know how to manage the impact of stress in our lives. So stage one type of stress is, I can say that one is positive. Let's say you have a lot of work to do at work, at home. So the response, the fight or flight responses of the body can make you, when it's very kind of like something you have a lot of things that you have to do at the same time, then the stage one part of stress can be there. Then you are able to have the zeal to finish what you have to do. But when stress is prolonged, when stress comes with fear, unrest of mind, it now becomes chronic stress. And the chronic stress is what now brings illnesses and diseases, which is really very huge. I dare say most diseases stems from that place of stress. And we need to really know how to balance our lives, to really know how to reduce stress, to maintain homeostasis of the body, to maintain harmony. And all this stems from how we manage our internal life, how we eliminate fear, how we eliminate things that will not hard to us, or eliminate, prevent, and just know how to manage our lives. So, what are the things that causes stress? I've just described the things that causes stress. Worry, anxiety, fear, lack of peace generally. The other time we spoke about peace. We discussed peace at length, how peace affects us when we manage our body right in wholeness, how peace will garnish our hearts and mind and just help us in our journey of wholeness. But lack of peace, lack of joy, a lot of fear, our inside not really settled, our internal dialogue, our thoughts, our thought is extremely huge on the impact of stress in our life. Our thought pattern, thoughts can create positive or negative. And when our thought pattern creates negative atmosphere in our body, then anxiety steps in, depression steps in, and from that, so many other things can also stem from anxiety, from fear. One of the ways to really prevent this is to guard our heart, to guard the things that comes into our heart. To guard our hearts, to guard what we are allowing to settle inside of us. To guard what we are allowing to settle inside of us. So stress, like I'm talking about, can be temporary, which is the eustress that gives you the push to keep moving on, to keep balancing your life. Your eustress is really the good part of stress that helps you to balance your life when you have a lot of things to do at the same time. You are able to manage your life right. But the other side of it, the stage 2 and 3 part of stress can really have impact on our brain, impact on our body, and bring in illnesses and diseases, which we need to prevent to live a life that is whole and balanced. As we journey through life, we will truly, truly walk in having so many things to be done at the same time. And when we are able to put things in perspective, look at life always as if the cup is half full, not looking at life as if the cup is half empty. There's a difference in looking at a cup of water and then seeing the cup of water half empty. When you're looking at it half empty, you are looking at it in a way that can bring the internal dialogue to be extremely negative, to be full of fear. But when we look at life and we see a cup of glass half full, it's a way of it sets your mind in a way that you are able to put things in perspective, that you are not letting what you are going through overwhelm you. You are not letting anything overwhelm you to the extent of paralyzing you, that you will not be able to move forward, or having so many things to be done at the same time that we are paralyzed, or that we allow our body to break down. So, how do we prevent stress? How do we reduce stress? How do we eliminate stress? I'm so glad you asked me, because I've been there. I've been there. I do not speak anything on this program that I've not experienced. And I always share the tips that either I've used and have worked for me, or I'm currently using. It's an instruction for me to share what has been working for me, or just share what has been working for me, either from education, either from even myself, even getting therapy myself, or the things that I have known as a registered nurse, as a pastor, as wholeness educator. I've done this now for over 6 years now. It's not something that I just wake up and doing. Stress has been linked to also excessive weight. And when we know how to eliminate stress, when we know how to eliminate stress, reduce stress, put things in perspective in our lives, then even excessive weight will begin to shed off. High blood pressure will come to a state of normal, conducive to the order of life. And no matter what the illnesses and diseases, the first thing when we have the diagnosis is to make sure that there is no fear, internal fear. And I'm sure that somebody under the sound of my voice this evening will get a nugget out of this program tonight. Because out of the abundance of what the knowledge that I've acquired, I'm sharing with you tonight. Amen. So the first thing we need to do when we are facing stress is to take a big pause. To take a big pause and analyze where we are, the stage that we are in life. And then from there, check our emotions, check our feelings, check everything around us, and make sure that we take care of fear. Because number one thing that leads to anxiety, if you have been there, is fear. The fear alone can paralyze. The fear alone, because fear causes stress. The things that haven't even happened, you are already thinking that it has happened and it has overwhelmed you and it's paralyzed you and you cannot move forward. So, the first thing when we're stressed is to take a big pause, to relax, and kind of decide and kind of try to talk to ourselves and know what really is making us to be very stressed. Meaning that check your heart, check your internal life, check your thought pattern, check, is there fear there? If there is fear, fear is a torment. Fear can kill. Fear is the number one cause of stress. Sometimes we are not able to decipher, we are not able to analyze what's really causing stress in our lives. Unpaid bills, troubles in relationship, just different things overwhelm, trouble at work, excessive work, when we have a lot to do at work also. Sometimes you just don't know that the stressor is really fear of the load that we're carrying. And if we're able to remove the fear, and how do we remove fear? How do we remove fear? Fear, by definition, is false illusion. It's really not real. When we try to check ourselves, like, what's my love life? What's my love life? Do I love myself? Do I love other people? Because love and fear, and sometimes when we say something on this program, it seems it's so exaggerative, but try and practice it. Love and fear cannot reside in the same vehicle. Love and fear cannot reside in the same vehicle. When love enters, fear will leave. When love enters your heart, and I'm talking about real love, not infatuation, not infatuation, not lusting. I'm talking about real love. Real love that makes you to be aware of who you are. Real love that makes you to be aware of that you are not alone, you are not of yourself. Real love that makes you to know that your DNA is love. When we're walking in that realization, when we're walking in that awareness, when we're walking in that consciousness, the fear that causes stress will leave. Fear that causes stress, fear that causes unrest, that causes depression, that causes anxiety will leave. Because fear is a torment. Fear can kill. Fear leads to stress. So when we're able to separate everything that's going on, and we're able to go back to our DNA, which is love, it's a roadway, it's like a road map to that life of living stress-free. The situation around you may not change. The circumstances around you that was causing stress before may not change. But you will change when you have the consciousness that, you know what? I'm here for a reason, I'm here for a purpose, and I'm not just flesh and blood. Inside of my spirit man is love. That love will drive away the fear. And how do we get to this? Is by constantly taking a big pause. Kind of like taking time during our 24 hours of not rushing through things. Taking a big pause, asking ourselves question that what's really the cause of the stressor in our lives? And then asking ourselves also, who am I? I'm big on really know who you are. Who am I? What am I made of? What is the stuff that I'm made of? You are made in the image of God, who is love. On this program, even though it's a program that's really part to wholeness living, The background is that we are rooted in knowing that God made us. We are not of our own. So when we're back to the truth that God made you, God is your source, then it was the beginning of really reducing stress, reducing fear, eliminating fear. I will take that again. Love and fear cannot remain in the same vehicle. Love and fear cannot live together. I'm talking from experience. I've lived a very fearful life, and by me knowing the stuff that I'm made of, that I'm not of my own, that God is on the inside, and the God on the inside is love. It will be the beginning to our healing, the beginning to eliminating stress, the beginning to eliminating fear, the beginning to eliminating any unrest in your life. Like I said, the situation may not change. The situation may not have changed. But you that is facing the problem will change. Because the change will come from inside of you. The change will come from your inner world that knows that inside of this body is not just flesh and blood, but the soul is there, the spirit is there, and inside the spirit and the soul is full of love of God that God gives to you. So it will be the beginning of eliminating stress. When we are faced with stress, a lot of time anxiety comes in and people, you go to the therapist, you go to the doctor, and medication is prescribed. But some basic things of life will also help greatly in eliminating the stressors that we face. Constantly being aware of who you are. Not a moment you live without you having that consciousness that, no, you are not just flesh and blood. And taking pause, really taking deep breath, pausing, and reminding yourself of who you are. You see? When we also walk in the realization that at your act of thanksgiving, these things are so basic, but it will, let's start from reduction. Stress will be reducing, and eventually it will really leave. Stress will really leave. Circumstances may not change, but you change your inner life. And inner life changing stems from our thought pattern. What are we allowing to come into our heart? First of all, knowing who we are on the inside, that we are love, that inside of us is love. Inside of us is love. And then, because let's break it down. How do we get to that place of stress? We think something. Most of the time, you think something that has not even, it may not even, sometimes it's not even real. Sometimes it's not real, but your thoughts bring something into your consciousness. And that thing brings the energy in your body. Everything is working. Your energy is flowing with the thought pattern. And then fear stems in. And then fear that is not controlled now begins to become anxiety. And then when it's not controlled, when it's not managed, when you don't even know the source of the fear, and it's just your imagination sometimes it may just be imagination that becomes your thought pattern, and then you begin to walk in that energy of negative energy that now brings stress. Sometimes it's not imagination, it's things that is going on around you that we're not able to look into the positive side of things. We're focusing on the things that we're going through presently. We have to know what we're going through presently. We have to admit what we're going through presently. But we don't allow it to overwhelm us to the place that we're not able to see positive. We're not able to see the end from the beginning. As people that know their source, we have to be able to look at a situation and then be able to see the way out, be able to see the roadmap, be able to see the end, and that end will always be good for us. So we always have to know the source of the situation that we're facing, and whether it's imaginary or if it's real. So if it is imaginary, then we take care of it. Sometimes we get help from our partner, our family, or we go to a professional. But at the same time, when you are going to a professional, you have to know what you are looking for. What you are looking for is to make sure that you you eliminate stress, and how you are going to get there. So most of the time, stress is really something that we can prevent by coming back to the consciousness of who we are. Coming back to the consciousness of who we are, putting things in perspective, knowing our source, honoring our source, honoring ourselves, engaging acts of gratitude, engaging acts of thanksgiving, engaging acts of eliminating hunger, eliminating bitterness, really checking our hearts constantly, eliminating bitterness. Sometimes we are walking in hunger, we're walking in unforgiveness, we're walking in bitterness, and then all this thing is eating us up inside. It's eating us up so greatly that we are not letting go. And we don't know that if you are upset, if you are holding grudge, unforgiveness towards somebody else, and then we're expecting ourselves to live whole. It's like we're eating poison and expecting somebody else to go and pay for the poison that we're eating. So we have to constantly guard our hearts to know that we are loved first, and then that we're walking in that love that we are. Quick to forgive, loving as much as we can, not allowing ourselves to be doormat, but at the same time making sure that we're putting things in perspective. We are handling what we can handle. What we cannot handle, we know that we cannot handle this, and then we make sure that we put things in perspective. We develop healthy relationship with God, with ourselves, and then with people around us. Very healthy relationship. A relationship that is based on love, a relationship that is based on respect, a relationship that is based on honor, honoring one another, respecting one another, fighting against unforgiveness, fighting against bitterness, fighting against uncontrolled anger. You see, we can get angry, but we shouldn't sin with the anger. I've been there. I know what it is to be very, very upset and do things that you will regret later. But when we know how to eliminate anger, it will start from managing anger, because all this anger, unforgiveness, wrath, bitterness makes our body to eat up inside of us, and leading to stress, uncontrolled stress, acute stress sometimes. Like we says, the rush to be able to complete an assignment. But when stress, you cannot nail what's making you fearful, what is making you anxious, what is making you depressed, then it's really underlying factor is stress. It's a demand, a threat that you don't know that's there. And when you begin to take the pause, like I said, to analyze your life, the first thing is to think and then write. What's really the cause of, first of all, the emotions that we're feeling, the emotions that we're going through, to be able to journal the emotions that we're going through, and then the source of that emotion, and then how do we combat this negative emotion that we are having? Because negative emotion, negative thought pattern leads to stress. And stress unmanaged can really damage our organs. And there are ways to prevent it. And like I said before, the first way of preventing stress is really knowing who we are, that we are loved inside of us, and to know how to balance our spirit, our soul, our body, to be able to walk in who we are, to forgive, to guard our hearts, to guard our mind, to guard our thinking, our thought pattern with all diligence, to make sure that every day we're refocusing. One day we make mistake all the time, but we do not let the mistake that we make overwhelm us. We put things in perspective and we journal about each day. We know how to manage our lives. We know how to walk in love. We know how to walk in the spirit of patience. We know how to put on the garment of peace. We know how to laugh even when nothing is funny. We engage laughter. Laughter has been proven to be very medicinal. We prevent stress. We know how to be joyful. We know how to encourage ourselves. We know that joy is on the inside. That part of love on the inside of us is joy. And we have to engage ourselves in calling joy out. We speak words that will build us up. We take time to nourish our body also. Because we're talking about thought. As the man thinks, so is the man. If we think life, we are full with the life of God. But if we always see life the way it presents itself, then life will tell on us, and then we will have a very broken body. But when life gives us things that is bitter, we acknowledge that this is bitter, but we don't wallow in it. We turn the bitterness into something sweet by not focusing on the present bitterness that we're holding. We acknowledge that this is bitter, but then how do we now focus our attention on, yes, I can turn bitterness to joy, because we have the answer on the inside of us. We are love. We can be patient. When we take time, we can walk in joy. We can walk in harmony. We can walk in peace. The peace that will guard our heart, our mind, that will be free of stressors, that will be able to be productive citizen, that will be able to love God, love ourselves, and then love our neighbor, that will be able to love ourselves so much that if we need to get professional advice also, we go forward and do that. But stress is something that in wholeness living we need to reduce, eliminate, and just find a way of making sure that we remove stress. We remove stress. And the place of eating healthy, because we are also what we eat. When we eat right, it is proven to also help in making sure that our immune system is built up. Our metabolism is conducive to shed off excessive weight, helping us to think right, to feel right. Place of our attitude, place of gratitude, place of walking in love, walking in joy, calling joy out of ourselves, making decisions that is conducive for health, decision to really walk in our wholeness. Decision to walk in our wholeness, meaning that spirit, soul, and body, we are balanced. We're taking care of our physical being, we're taking care of our emotional being, we're taking care of our mental being, and we're also taking care of our spiritual needs. Amen. So we've been talking today about eliminating of stress in this path to wholeness living. So, to recap what we've been talking about, we are saying that stress comes from within or from outside. And sometimes it's something that is real that's making us to be stressful. Sometimes it's our imagination. It's something that is not real. And we have to put things in perspective. And we have to know who we are, that we are loved, and love and fear cannot reside in the same vehicle. And this These are things, these are systems, these are ways, these are paths that have been tested and proven, and it works. So, in my book, Mind of Christ, to combat illnesses, chronic disease, and maintain health, there's 2 chapters there talking about stress and how to eliminate stress. So, and you can find it on Amazon. It's still out there, and it will be a blessing to you. We engage the ministry of God, if I can put it that way, because the main thing in my approach to eliminating stress is really knowing God. Because when you know God, you know yourself. In knowing God, you find yourself. And knowing God will also help us. Sometimes it will take a process. I mean, not even sometimes. The thing is, when you know who you are and you know that you are loved, like I said, is the bedrock, is the roadmap to living a stress reduction life or stress-free life. The situation may not change, but you will change. You will not accept for stress to paralyze you. You will not accept stress to kill you. You will not accept stress to disturb you from being who you are or adding value to yourself and to your world. So, thank you so much for joining me this evening. This is Pastor Adepeju from Living Wholeness Outreaches Incorporation, encouraging you today to walk in your wholeness and give no place for fear that will lead